So welcome to another 2NL Play and Explain on Pokerstars. I did one last week and it was my first time ever that I played 2NL, and the feedback that I got was actually quite positive in terms of you guys wanting that, and therefore I have decided to do this again. And so you'll see me try to win some money. Let's see how that goes. I already had one pot before I pressed the record button, one relevant one that is, where I had top pair, blind versus blind, and my opponent backdoored into a straight, which was a bit frustrating. But the good thing is, these stakes you can't really lose a lot. Opening Jack-7 suited in the small blind. I would do that even against a less tight opponent than the one we were facing. Ace-5 suited on the button. We will either 3-bet or open, depending what cutoff decides to do. So he does raise, therefore I will go for the 3-bet. And let's see, if we get 4-bet, I will just fold. Even though in GTO this would be just about a call. But that's a nice thing, like you will not get 4-bet as much as you should at these stakes, which is why you can 3-bet a little lightly. Not that Ace-5 suited was a light 3-bet, this would be a light 3-bet, but because I don't know anything about this opponent, I will not 3-bet him with Ace-8 offsuit from the small blind. King-6 suited against 2.5x from under the gun would have been a call, but not once button 3-bets. Pocket queens is a hand that we can play. And since no one raises, we have to raise it up first. We get called. On this board, I will bet quite big, hoping to get called by a 7 or an 8 or a 3 or a pocket pair, or maybe ace high. But we get a pretty snappy fold. So against 3x, even though there is a cold caller, I'm not going to call with Jack-10 off. Even though the cold caller suggests that he is not a big crusher. You can definitely flat call in the cutoff. However, at this rake structure, it's not advisable, and there is a high percentage that that player was a recreational. So here, king-queen offsuit, we can call, we can raise. I prefer to raise. And it's not great once we get cold 4-bet, obviously not going to call. He also made it quite big, but even if he had made it smaller, I would have had to fold. King-9 suited is a raise, and as you saw me, I tried to go 2.2x. This didn't quite work out. They don't allow me to do that at these stakes. So we don't even have a backdoor. We're up against two players, both of them most likely recreational. One cold in the hijack, the other one cold in the small blind. And once he bets, there is not much I can do with my king-9 suited. I could, of course, have c-bet there, but without even having a backdoor, I didn't think that was a great one to go for. Here I would normally have just called, but because now there is a squeezing opportunity, I am going to go for the squeeze. We get called, and this is a board that we can either play with a big bet or check. Doesn't have to be quite as big. We can go 18. It's just a little bit over half pot. And we do get the fold, which is excellent. So yeah, 7-5-3, and you have a polarized 3-betting range from the big blind anyway, and then you have to check quite a bit. But at these stakes, I would definitely advocate for c-betting more than GTO suggests. And even GTO would have c-bet quite a bit in that spot, I think. But that is something to look up at the end. Actually, I can see if I will tag this hand for review. And pocket queens, will we get our first walk of the day? Ooh, interesting, and it is the first walk of the day. Not one we would have liked, but we'll take every little pot that we can. So I've been playing 26, 23 over 40 hands. That is actually slightly more than average. And we're getting the second walk, this time with 10 high. Won't complain about that. How much fun would it be to just get a walk every time? Always. When you're in the big blind. Yeah, I think wouldn't be much fun to play poker anymore. So pocket sevens there, even if there hadn't been a 3-bet, I would have folded. You can 3-bet sevens in the small blinds against a button raise. You can get away with it also maybe against a cutoff raise, but if low jack raises, I think pocket sevens will hit the muck very quickly, and we're getting our third walk of the day within like a minute or so. Pocket sevens against not a full stack, it does raise to 3x. I'm still gonna 3-bet him, and we get called. And here, this is normally a bigger bet in GTO, but I think I want to go slightly on the smaller side, because if he has a hand like tens or jacks or so, he will call either way, and I think he's not elastic enough to really follow the theory. So on such a paired board, you would normally bet very polarized, but in this case, with my exact hand, I basically bet for protection, because if he has a hand like ace jack, for example, then I'm very happy to fold that one out. If he has a hand like pocket sixes, fives, fours or so, it's better with a smaller size, because he just might fold to a bigger bet, but he will almost always call to the smaller one. So I didn't really see a reason to go with GTO sizing. This is something I'm trying to do more these days, because I'm actually, especially in 3-bet pots, I'm very stuck on GTO sizings especially. But if you can achieve the same thing with a different bet size that just costs you more if you're behind, or where you can get away with betting bigger if you have it, then why not do that? And that one was exactly such an example. So here we are up against two players. The 10-9 is not a good one, so again I will have to check, and we get, well, I would have maybe have considered continuing against the half bet there, but once there is a call, I think we have to be out. I just want to watch the conclusion of this hand, and we would have rivered an ace, but yeah, okay, so he had the king 10, and what did this other guy do this with? I will just quickly check this, but my computer is just being a little bit slow. I can't even fold this hand. Now it's finally done it. Yeah, I think it's a bit overwhelmed with me recording this, even though I'm only playing one table. So let's see this again. He had queen jack. Okay, so we were definitely ahead of him, but he had an open ender, and he had the top pair on the flop. So it was good that we folded. 9-7 off, never gonna fold against a 2.5x open from the small blind. Once he makes it half pot on this board, I am happy to call. Queen, not great, but the check is great, and I will just check whenever, as soon as my computer allows me to do that. And now, though we river this two pair, we already had two pair, and the 7 doesn't matter. No point in going for any value, definitely checking, and we were up against aces. So okay, that might explain why he went for the 2.5x pre-flop. That's what a lot of players do. They are just so afraid of lose a customer. And imagine if the flop had come 10-9-9 rather than 10-10-9, then I would have made quite a bit of money against the guy with the aces. But as it was, we managed to get away quite cheaply, also because he played it so passively. So I will not complain about that. 6-4 suited would have been an open for me on the button, but it's not a continue once someone else raises. Pocket fours, not ideal that he's such a short stack, but especially now that he calls, definitely gonna call and go for the set mine or a straight. Here we have the gut shot. Let's see what small blind does. We could consider donking actually, but I think I'm just gonna check to the aggressor. He's a short stack, might be a recreational player who might have a hand. Now that he c-bets just over half pot, I will call. Ooh, well, but he calls as well. That is not ideal, and I am not even drawing to the nuts. If the 5 comes in, then 8-9 wins. I am just going to fold, even though that looks a bit nitty. But let's just watch the conclusion of the hand. The thing is, like, if he is a recreational player, which I think he is, he might have some over pairs. And I just didn't think that my 4 was good once he called. Without him calling, I would have called. And look, he continues firing. The half pot size is not necessarily telling, but then on the other hand, he is short stacked, so he shouldn't really go much bigger anyway. And now let's see what poison 416 does. He calls, and okay, so we would have had 2 pair. Yeah, see, he had the over pair actually. So what did the other guy have? Yeah, he had jack 7, he had top pair, he had an over pair. We were behind, so it was good that we folded. And see the guy with the pocket 8s and the small blind. I mean, he was a bit in a tough spot there, because normally you would want to 3-bet, but if button only has 40 big blinds, it's a bit of a shame to 3-bet and then having to fold. So I can see why he called there. And he did win it in the end, so it worked out for him. Didn't quite work out for us with our pocket 4s. But yeah, if you have pocket 4s and you're up against 2 players and you don't hit a set or a straight, then it's normally quite hard to win. So I'm glad I found the fold there. Ace 4 off will be a raise if we get the chance to do so, which we do. Let's see, you so easy, man. Well, you not so easy for me. Obviously having to fold Ace 4 off. Ah, this is annoying. This is the guy with the pocket 8s from earlier, but I still think I just need to fold. With this rake structure, 6-5 off is just not great. On this one, I will open 5-4 suited because I'm up against players that I think are quite recreational, and we get it through anyway. So that is good. Now my stats have gone down to 23.19, which I think is pretty close to my actual average in cash games. 5-4 suited on the button this time. Definitely would have opened. Should we try to 3-bet? No, 5 high after all. And it would not be exactly GTO to do so anyway. I considered doing it because I saw the guy had folded 100% of the time to 3 bets, but then I saw that it was only 1 out of 1. So that's not exactly a sample size to go by. Pocket fours, I'm happy to open them. There is a non-crusher in the blinds. And now we get raised, and there is a 4-bet. And I just want to watch and see what's going on. If he had cold called the 3-bet, I would have called as well. But I'm not going to call the 4-bet and then potentially even having him jam over us. Yeah, he is jamming. And he folds. So he called min 4-bet to then fold to a jam. I wonder what you would do that with. If you have any idea, just let me know, because I am absolutely clueless what kind of hand you would do that with, but I imagine that that was a player who was not great. King Queen off is a hand that we can 3-bet, especially now that we want to squeeze it. I'll make it 15 to win the 6.5. And this is good that the original razor folds, and it's even better once the cold caller folds as well. Yeah, so I feel the red line at 2NL can be quite good just by going with a lot of 3-betting. Here, this is a tough one, but 5-4 off, just not really good enough to continue, even though there is a min raise and a recreational player calling in between. It's a very close one. I mean, GTO is definitely a fold, but in this particular game, in that lineup, it was close, but simply because of the rake structure that's quite high, I think it's better to just fold there. Yeah, so rake at 2NL, 5NL, 10NL, and 25NL is really prohibitive, actually. You can't really make money. It's possible to beat the game, obviously, but not for a lot, simply because the rake is so terribly high. From 50NL upwards, it starts getting better, but obviously the games there are tougher. But I still kind of prefer playing there, because you can do a little bit more there, and it's just somehow more fun than having to fold a lot. And here, 2NL, there would actually be a lot of exploits where you could call a bit light, but the problem is that then you pay so much rake that it's not worth it. I like this name, Pulp Malad. Okay, we only made it 2x. I meant to make it 2.5x. But it doesn't matter. We get the fold anyway. So 10-8 off is a hand that we will continue against the small blind. I would probably have folded against any other position than small blind and potentially button, depending on the raise size. Here, I mean, against 2x, I'm even considering 3-betting this one, but I will just call. And this is unfortunately not a great flop for us. He doesn't bet. I am going to bet because I think, yeah, these stakes, you kind of want to bet once the original raiser skips the c-bet because they over c-bet anyway, and then if they don't do it, then you want to do it. So we got an easy win there with a third pot bet on king king 7. On this one we will open a7 off, but we will not continue once the button opens. Now we have a ace8 off, not a continue against the raise. Yeah, so sometimes I think it would be better to play 2 tables or even 4 maybe. We would get into more interesting spots, but the problem is that it just gets so confusing and it's hard to actually talk and play well. It's hard to talk and play well anyway. But let alone if you have something like 4 tables. If you'd like me to try 2 tabling, I could try and see how that goes, but I think then also the board is quite small. If you're watching on a phone, you will probably struggle. So that's why I think it's best to just play with 1, but I'm open to suggestions either way. Jack 7 suited. So that's a hand that I actually like to 3-bet with. I would definitely 3-bet the button. I'm not sure if it goes into the 3-betting range against small blind, but I think it can't be too bad. Although it is very bad once we get snap 4-bet. So then obviously we have to fold. And I've learned to go 7.5 rather than to 9, which would be 3x, because you risk less and you, in theory at least, you achieve the same. However, I'm not sure at 2NL. Sometimes I have the impression that some villains might think that, might interpret it as weakness. So pocket 5s against low jack raise, I will just fold. Yeah, sometimes I think they might interpret it as weakness and then 4-bet, but I mean, I'm basing this on a very tiny sample size, but it's happened a few times to me now. So I will monitor the situation. Ace deuce off is normally a fold in the small blind, but if we get the chance to, I think we'll open because we have an ace blocker and we don't get 3-bet as much as we should. And we still have a decent hand. If we get called, we might get called by weaker. Well, I see now we're just wasting our time for people to just tank and then you still have to fold. It's just kind of a bit annoying, especially in Zoom games. But pocket aces is not the shabbiest hand, and getting 3-bet is actually quite nice. We are just over 110 deep, so definitely not slow playing. Going to make this one 19 out of position. And we get called. 6, 7, 8 is pretty terrible. He does have all of those. However, I still think that we can go for a small c-bet because he has kings, queens, jacks, 10s, and 9s. And so I definitely want that. The question is, should we continue barreling? Should we let him? I think I'm just going to give him a free card and check raise if he bets. I'm gonna go broke if needs be. Now the thing is, like, after I skipped the c-bet on the turn, it's hard to jam, but I still think I am gonna jam because I still get called by the hands that I mentioned: kings, queens, jacks, tens, and so on. So I will just do that. And unfortunately we get the fold. So he might have had a hand like ace king, ace queen or so himself. and then he didn't want to. I think kings or queens would have played it differently. I don't think they would have folded, but who knows with these nits. Maybe they would have, but that's why I gave him the chance on the turn. Sometimes, if he has a hand even like King Jack with a backdoor that he just floated with, he might stab there thinking that I have Ace King and he could get me off it. So that was the plan behind my check on the turn. Oh, and we got aces again. And there is a raise again. And you're thinking of 3-betting? That would be nice. No, that's a shame. Why you let me down? So this guy, I don't have much information on him. Not that it matters, but it would be interesting to see. But unfortunately, he snap folded to my 3-bet. So we're doing all right, I think. But we've had aces twice. We also had queens, although we got a walk with the queens. We haven't had a big post-flop hand yet. But we're getting walks, and walks are always nice. Well, not always. Not if you have aces or queens. But if you have 7-5 off, then definitely. This guy, short stack, makes it 3.5. Definitely folding pocket deuces. 10-3 off. Thankfully, quick raise and we can get away. Is 3 off, we would raise, not continue though. Jack 10 suited, what a nice hand. And there is a limper, so we're going to isolate the limper and give him the non-crusher tag. And he calls. This is definitely a board where I would like to see bet. We have a couple of backdoors. I do not like the spade coming in. He called very quickly. And now, let's see, if he checks again, I just don't think I can go for much value. I wish I could go for value. Question is whether I can get him to fold, and I don't think I can get him to fold. Definitely can't get him to fold King Jack. And we got Jack 10 again. Let's try it with a 3-bet this time. Yeah, so as quickly as he called, he either had a king or he had an underpair or he had a flush draw. So that's why I knew against a king and the flush draw that then became a flush, there is no chance of getting him to fold either of those. Ooh, look at this. This is a nice one. So this is a board where we should bet big or check. I am going to bet on the bigger side because I do have trips, and if he has any sort of a pocket pair, he might have kings, might even be slow playing aces, or he has tens. So in that case, he would have continued with all of those hands, and that's why I went bigger. Although I could possibly have gone even bigger. But yeah, so back to the other hand with Jack 10 suited in the limped one. If I can't get him to fold a king, if I can't get him to fold a flush, then all I can get him to fold is maybe a pocket pair, but even that is not a given, and that's why I decided not to. We got aces for the third time against a player who hasn't folded to a 3-bet yet, but only has faced one that we recorded. So let's see if he 4-bets us. That would be really nice. I would like to show you guys how to play a 4-bet pot. 3-bet pot is also not bad, and I think he shouldn't have kings or queens. He could have king, queen, but this is definitely still a board that I do want to c-bet, and again, I'm going to go a little bit bigger. We do have the ace of hearts as well as a little bit of an insurance. And here we have the insurance. The question is whether we should continue. I don't think we can get a lot out of him, so I will now just check. could, of course, continue, but I think if he has a hand like jacks or tens, we can't really get much out of him. And when he bets so small, this is kind of a little bit of a protection bet. The thing is, I don't think he... If we check raise, can we get him to call anything weaker? King Jack, King 10, maybe, but I will just call. And on this river, do I ever want to donk? I do not want to donk. I will just let him potentially bluff, although I don't expect him to bet a lot, and that's what makes it so complicated. But I thought if I check raise that turn, there is not that much that we beat and that calls us, except for like King Jack, King 10, something like that. And now he goes half pot, and we do beat some of his value. We beat all his bluffs. Admittedly, I don't know how many he has, but he could still have Jack 10 or something like that. We beat King Jack, we beat King 10, definitely gonna call. But he does have King Queen, so yeah, that was very unlucky. We went into this being about 85% favorite, and we got outflopped straight away. But this is still a hand that I want to review later. So yeah, very unlucky in that spot. So again, in the one big spot that we had, we got unlucky. There was one other fairly big spot that we got lucky in. But yeah, you can't have a positive session if your biggest pot goes wrong. Well, I mean, you can, but a lot has to go your way. So sadly, our aces got cracked, but I still think you can never fold to that river. You have to be good 25% of the time, and he might be bluffing, or he might be overvaluing something. Could have ace king, he could have king jack, and there could be enough spew in there as well. So I'm quite okay with how I played it. Now 3-betting ace jack off. And getting called. The king 6 deuce. This one I definitely want to c-bet. Want to c-bet small. And this is usually a range bet board. Once the ace comes, we can continue. I am going to go a little bigger now, about 12. Of course, if he has a set, that's not great. If he has ace king, that's not great, but we should go with a bet. I'm still going to just mark this one for review. I do like to mark 3-bet pots for review. And pocket kings, let's see how we do with these. Well, don't need to comment too much on that one. Queen 7 off will most likely be a fold. Against a min click on the button, I still have to fold. I just don't have much going with that hand. Yeah, so the field here is not amazing. Obviously, it's 2NL, quite a few nits, not many great players. However, yeah, if you get unlucky with your aces, then you will still have losing sessions. And unfortunately, I am 2 out of 2. If we don't get a miracle, I'm going to bet this one quite big. Maybe there was a mistake. But I think, I mean, you can obviously have an 8. But I was okay. Bet for value and a little bit of protection. Although on the turn, you don't really need to bet much for protection. But I thought I could bet for value. He could have a weaker 10. He could look me up with 7s through 3s, maybe even something like ace deuce. So that's why I bet there. And for the red line, it's actually not bad to just bet anyway. King 5 suited. Let's raise it up. And no action. Jack 10 off on the button. Let's raise this one up as well. No action again. Yeah, speaking of a nitty pool, this is definitely one. I think this has changed over the years, like 15 years ago or so. People, even at higher stakes, would just play a lot more hands. So here, Jack 10 off, I mean, definitely a fold once he 3-bets, but it would be really close against a 3x. So the only reason why I might consider calling to a 3x is because that indicates that it's a weaker player. And then I might have a skill edge, well, I'd hopefully have a skill edge, but still, it might not be playable because of the high rake and because we would be out of position. Here, King 7 off, slightly worse than actual opening, but I still fancied my chances and I'm going to c-bet this one small. It's not a range bet by any means, but I can get away with betting too much on that board because I think players don't defend enough. Obviously, they will defend if they have. So here I'm going to go for the 3-bet. They will, of course, call with an ace, with an 8 or a 6 or maybe even a draw. But I can clear out so much equity otherwise and also avoid getting bluffed that it's definitely worth doing. So I am going to play this orbit and then I'm going to analyze some hands. So if you want to stick with me to just analyze the 3 or 4 hands that I had. So this one's a close one. I am going to go, if in doubt, I'm going to go for the 3-bet. And we get called and we flop top pair. We can either check or we can bet big. I am happy to go big. And we get a fold. Yeah, so in some ways you could say I choose my sizings a bit exploitatively. 2NL. I wanted a call from a pocket pair between 6s and 10s, and therefore I went big there. So let's just very quickly have a look. So we have 3 hands to analyze, and this is it. We just about managed to finish in positive territory, but very happy with my red line. It's going straight up, so that was good. It was partly because we had aces, but still, I'm very happy with that. And let's just analyze the 3-bet pots. I will have to go to GTO Wizard and show you how this works. So here, yeah, we copied this, we can upload them, and this is such a great tool to analyze your hands. I love it. And it's telling me that I did something wrong, so let's see. We are supposed to raise this one. Yeah, that is very good. We get a call, and here it's telling me it is 100% a check. But if you see, okay, so I don't mind it. If you see the check line has 1.68 EV, bet 50% has 1.58, it's basically the same thing, and I am happy to have done it because players will just overfold, and therefore it's good to do. I just want to very quickly see what they're supposed to raise, to continue with. Let's just very quickly see this once we get there. So hijack, that was them. Yes. So, what did I do? What did I do? Bet 50% and now hijack. So they're supposed to call. Well, I think they actually wouldn't even. Yeah, they don't call I don't think they would fold anything that they're not supposed to be fair. So yeah, they would call with every pair and everything. So it's just that they probably called the 3-bet too wide in the first place. I think that's the thing here, because they would be wider, I would guess, than this. But anyway, off to the next one. So that would be the aces hand. And let's upload this one. So by the way, if you want to do the same kind of analysis, you can do so with GTO Wizard, and you can get 10% off your first purchase with a code that I will leave in the comments and the description below. So here, definitely a raise, which we did. We get called. And we chose the 33% bet size, which is the one that they wouldn't choose, although, as you can see, they're all the same. EV, but it would go with a check, actually, even sometimes. It would go with a small bet, and you can also go with a bigger bet of 21% of the time. But anyway, we're okay with that. Once he calls, I went with a check, but we could have gone 50%, and we could have gone pretty much with any other size as well. We went with a check, which is the second most popular option. Now, we are supposed to raise. So that's what I thought, that Solver would suggest that. However, yeah, why did I not want to do it? Because I thought I wouldn't get called by any worse, so I wouldn't have been able to fold out King Queen for sure. But would I, like King Jack maybe, but there wasn't too much worse that a human at 2NL would call with, I think, and that's why I did not raise. But as you can see, the call EV wise is not much of a difference. And then on the river, well, this is a non-existing GTO spot, so we can't really tell. But I still think it was okay how I played the hand. And last but not least, ace jack off. Upload. Analyze. And we did this one. Well, it says, so this is a raise. We get called, and on this board, the third pot was the favorite option. You should never check, which is very interesting. 0% checks, and probably also not a high percentage with our range. So we just c-bet this one. I am curious to see what this one means. We should wait. We are no. I just want to see what we want to bet with. So we do actually check 23% of the time. So we do check, yeah, we check with queens, jacks, some weaker kings, even some aces. Okay. And then I think he called. And once we get to this point, again, I chose the best option, which is around 50%. But you can also check, and you can go with a 33%. The only thing you shouldn't do is go bigger. However, if you see the EV, you can do whatever you want, and it's fine. And at this point, we got the fold, and the hand was over. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.